finally time that we release the poor unicorns and put them out to pasture. In Europe and the West, we've abused them for centuries and exploited them as bad metaphors. In the Middle Ages, our ancestors must have captured some from ancient India, where images of unicorns were found on soapstone stamp seals dating back to the Bronze Age. It would have been difficult to collect specimens back then, since the only way to capture them was to place a young chaste virgin or maiden in its path. Upon seeing her, the unicorn would lose its ferocity, lay its head in her lap, and fall asleep, allowing waiting hunters to capture or kill it. The fact that only a virgin could tame the beast was interpreted as an allegory for Christ becoming flesh in the womb of the virgin. The unicorn's fierce nature represented the untameable, mighty nature of God. The single horn symbolized the unity of Christ and God the Father, or the horn of salvation and the cross itself. The cruel Catholic clergy at the time made images of them and imprisoned these in their medieval bestiaries.
In 2013, venture capitalist Aileen Lee, founder of Cowboy Ventures, published an article in the TechCrunch blog entitled, "Welcome to the Unicorn Club, Learning from Billion-Dollar Startups."
Soon after, the business press appropriated the term and we began to see unicorns everywhere. What's more, venture capitalists and even some economists began building a mythology around the notion. Business schools began teaching courses on the lean startup methodology and how ambitious entrepreneurs could build their own. Of course, entrepreneurs would need a little help from these so-called experts. While in the Middle Ages, the mythology was based on a strict interpretation of the New Testament. In the 21st century, the mythology centered around a fundamentalist view of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations and a quasi-religious interpretation of his notion of the invisible hand.
A decade later, even Aileen Lee is starting to have doubts about the usefulness of her metaphor. In a January 2024 blog post on Yahoo Finance, she is quoted as saying that she knows that the term has taken on a life of its own and is imperfect. It's an ephemeral word. It's a point in time. I don't think we have a good shortener for long-term sustained success. She also said that, over the years, aspiring entrepreneurs with gilded resumes have come to me, asking me how to build a unicorn. With a refreshing honesty, she tells them, that isn't how this works.
According to advisory firm Venture Care, securing capital through funding rounds is crucial for growth and innovation. Startups often face unique challenges, and access to funding can determine their ability to scale operations, develop products, and penetrate markets. Understanding the intricacies of funding rounds, from seed funding to Series D and beyond, empowers entrepreneurs to navigate their fundraising journey effectively. Venture Care, a consulting firm out of India, provides help to founders of US startups trying to navigate the intricacies of funding rounds in Silicon Valley. The problem with Venture Care's analysis is that 80% of successful US exits, IPOs or acquisitions, are achieved without any venture capital at all, according to a study of 10 million US companies by MIT. So how crucial are standard funding rounds for the growth and innovation of the 80% of early-stage companies in the US achieving successful exits without any venture capital at all? Their situation in Canada is different, but maybe not better. One Canadian venture capital corporation I invested in 2013 solicited investors like me with the promise of due diligence in teams to reduce the risks of early-stage investing. As a former senior tax manager at one of Canada's Big Four accounting firms, I initially served on one of these teams. However, when I asked probing questions as part of the due diligence process, it turned out the CFO of the venture capital firm had already promised the prospective investee that they qualified for an investment. I looked up the CFO's profile on LinkedIn and noted that he had his own management consulting firm. Was he introducing his management consulting clients to our venture capital corporation? I began to suspect that our CFO was using investors' money as bait to land consulting gigs for himself. If the time has come to set the unicorn free, what would be a better metaphor for the life cycle of a technology startup today? At the hatchery, we believe that there are a number of different stages of growth for every business. They pass through each of these stages at different times, depending on their own resources, markets, and the inevitable uncertainties and random events that occur outside the company's control. From our perspective, We could substitute 3 different animals for the unicorn, which better represent the stages of growth of almost all startups, at least those that begin life as micro-businesses with fewer than 5 people on their team. 2 of these metaphors we've borrowed from others, and they represent life spent in the marathon stages of growth after the immediate challenges of the first few years. These are venture capitalist Alexandra Lazaro's resilient camel and philosopher-investor Nassim Taleb's unexpected black swan. We've added sea turtle hatchlings to this group, which have somehow managed to continue reproducing for millions of years, even though as few as 1 in 1,000 hatchlings survive to adulthood.